You're listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. I've got a new blog post up about how our mental rehearsals are one of the ways that we practice vibrations. And in that post, I promised to share about how I practiced a new money vibration. But I want to talk a little bit about those mental rehearsals. Like when I imagine something like, say an uptight family gathering, I'm practicing the vibration of tension while I do that. Or when I imagine someone being upset with my work, I'm practicing the vibration of upset, or something along those lines. When I rehearse a conversation in my mind with someone and I'm imagining it going badly, I'm practicing a vibration that doesn't serve me. So it's worth getting really conscious and clear about what we're practicing vibrationally in our minds with the pictures that we're imagining and the words that we have on repeat. Because some of those vibrations aren't taking us where we really want to go. And money can be a particularly kinky subject for some of us. Vibrationally kinky, where we have a tough time getting dialed in on the money vibe that actually serves us. Mostly because we've been practicing the opposite of what we want for so long, and because so many others around us are reinforcing it. So it can be really easy to find ourselves where we don't want to be vibrationally, and thus experientially with money. And I was one of those people for a very long time. The thoughts I engaged in, the scenarios I played out were not supportive of the financial reality that I wanted. And that's why I got really clear and eventually really good about practicing a new money vibe. And I did that in a variety of ways. Actually, I shouldn't say did, as if it were past tense. I still engage some of these. But here's what I did over time to move my money dial. And let me just start out by saying where I started was not a good place. I just from social and family programming and real life experience, my vibration around money was lack, not enough, hard to come by. It was very uncomfortable, both the making of it and the spending of it, let alone the talking about it. There was nothing easy about money. It was the source of a lot of frustration and angst while I was growing up and in my early adulthood. That's what I learned about money in my earliest years. And I was dialed in there pretty good for quite a while. But then I learned about our creative powers. And I realized, hey, I'm in charge here. When I change my vibration, my reality shifts to match it. So hello, let's find a new money vibration, right? If we get to play whatever we want, let's go here. So what I wanted for my money was pretty much the opposite of everything I already knew and experienced about it. I wanted my money to be easy. I wanted it to be big. I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be comfortable. And I knew that in order to experience that, I got to find those vibrations first. It's for me to lead the way. And so I led that way in a variety of ways, including, here's some of what I did. I changed the self-talk. Instead of letting those old routines run rampant about how money was always short and there's never enough to do what I really wanted to, and I got to be careful with it. It's easy to mess this up, so don't do anything stupid. It's kind of a big deal, so watch what you're doing. Instead of that kind of self-talk, I started switching it up to things like, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. This isn't so hard. It's not as big a deal as I used to make it out to be. It can be different for me. It's getting better. I'm getting traction. I'm seeing progress. Those sorts of thoughts helped shift the vibration that my self-talk was generating. And as part of that self-talk, I also used affirmations. I wrote sticky notes down and posted them on the board to remind me to program my mind with some new money thoughts. Some of the affirmations I used were things like, I make money like magic, effortless, easy, natural, and fun. That's not the kind of affirmation I would use anymore, but it took me a while to learn how to create an affirmation that really worked for me. I attract big fat cash with ease and joy. That's another one. You could tell the way I even say it, it doesn't light me up, right? What else did I use? I'm good with money. Money comes naturally to me. I have more money than I can spend. Okay, now did you hear the way I said that? I have more money than I could spend. I had fun with that one. That was a nice reality to create. I also loved the more money I spend, the more money I make, because so many believe, and I was one for a while, that when you spend it, that means you have less. But that's not a fun reality. Isn't it more fun that the more you spend, the more you have? Cool affirmation. I also had fun with I make money while I sleep. And once that became a reality, I changed it up to I make big money while I sleep. Oh, I also had fun with my money likes to make its own self. That one makes me smile. If you've got an affirmation that makes you smile, you know you're onto something good. But my all-time favorite affirmation, and this one just came, one day I was looking at some numbers, and my spontaneous thought was, holy shit, I make a lot of money. And I liked that thought so much, I was like, I'm using it as an affirmation to this day. That's one of my favorites. Holy shit, I make a lot of money. I like affirmations to be what you would say when you are experiencing the thing. Put them in your own words. I think that works way better than pulling something out of a book that may not be in a language that really clicks for you. Okay, in addition to self-talk and affirmations, I also practiced that thing. Well, they always tell you to put a $100 bill in your wallet and walk around, like not actually spend it, but just imagine spending it over and over again. Like you're looking at stuff and you're like, I could buy that. I could buy that. You get a lot of leverage out of a $100 bill that way. You know what? That didn't work for me for a variety of reasons. I do not like to carry cash. So when I had a $100 bill in my wallet, it kind of made me a little paranoid about where my purse was. Like I was all of a sudden trying to keep good track of it. It activated uptight instead of abundance. So the $100 bill did not work for me, but what did work was the $1 million bill. You know how you can get those? I had a $1 million bill in my, can you hear the smile? You can see how much better this worked for me, right? So I had this $1 million bill in my wallet. I actually have one on my board too, because I just use it as a way to help acclimate myself to the feeling of financial abundance. It does. It's kind of cool to look at. For me, it is. For someone else, it might not. And if you don't know and you don't have a $1 million bill, I bet I have a couple more here in the office somewhere. If you email me your address, I'd be happy to send you one until I run out. In addition to that, I also did some relationship work with money where I reimagined how we interacted together. That has evolved over time. In the beginning, what my relationship with money was where I felt like I wasn't in charge of it. It would just pop in and pop out at will without any say-so from me. It was totally unreliable, didn't care what I wanted at all. That was what my relationship with money was. But then I started recreating that relationship. And I just did that by imagining it differently, where it was under my thumb, at my beck and call, like a reliable, well-trained dog on a leash. That was fun for a while. I felt like I was in charge of it, and it was much more reliable. But eventually, even that relationship evolved to where I let it off its leash, because I felt like, I wanted to trust it more than that. So I imagined it to be more like this fabulous silent partner. I never had to worry about it or wonder about it. It was always there. That was cool. But then it even evolved beyond that where because I kind of felt like I was taking it for granted that way, not really properly appreciating it. So I evolved my money relationship to be one where I just flowed lots more appreciation, and I loved it up proper. I actually think that's a really nice approach with money, appreciation. Because you can appreciate yourself right into wealth if you just appreciate the money that you do have. So that evolving relationship with money is another way that I played with my money vibe. And what else did I do? You know what? Instead of letting myself run worst case scenarios over and over in my mind, I started imagining that I could buy whatever I wanted without wondering whether or not I had the money, because I definitely had the money. I just started imagining that, right? So swapping out those worst case scenarios with wouldn't it be nice if scenarios. Like I could shop without looking at price tags. That's what I really wanted to do. To not even care what something cost. To know that I could afford whatever I wanted. So I got used to that experience in my mind first before it became my reality. I'm laughing the day that this was one of the days that I really felt rich. And I know a lot of it had to do with practicing this in advance. But I remember I had a friend over to my house one day, and he opened up my refrigerator and he saw, this is going to sound funny. It's silly, the things that we remember. But he opened up the refrigerator and it was in the wintertime, like December. And I had organic strawberries in there. And he said, organic strawberries in December. Do you have any idea how much these cost? And the truth is, I didn't. I didn't have any idea how much they cost because I bought whatever I wanted without looking at price tags. And when I realized that, it did make me smile. It didn't feel irresponsible. It felt rich. Not everyone would experience it that way, but I love that memory. What else did I do? I started watching the way that I talked out loud about money. Like, I learned the importance of I am statements in particular. So I made sure never to say, I am broke again. Even though I used to say that a lot of times, even when it wasn't true, I would just say it to get out of things that I didn't want to do. But boy, once you understand that instruction to universe, whether you mean it or not, whether you think it's true or not, giving that instruction is not one you want universe to answer. So I learned to watch the way that I talked about money and stop using it as an excuse for things that I didn't want to do. And I also did, instead of thinking of my money as kind of wimpy, not enough, I started looking at it differently. I started appreciating it, really, and seeing it as plenty, right? That perspective shift alone, I believe, can be a game changer on itself, even if we did nothing else, just to appreciate it into an abundance in our life. That one I like a lot. I also made Pray Rain journal entries about all the money that I had. I have a podcast episode on Pray Rain journaling. If you don't know what that is, maybe listen to that one. But I was writing about this wonderful experience I was having with money, how nice it was to have plenty and how fun it was to manage and how good it felt to have it in my life. I was creating a new vibration while I was writing out those entries. And again, the vibration is what matters. That's where everything starts. It's where everything comes from. I also paid attention to people who seemed to have a good thing going with money. I studied them privately from a distance. Not like I was out doing interviews or anything. I didn't really go asking anyone to tell me about their money stuff, but I reveled in the abundance vibration wherever I saw what looked to me that someone was flowing it, right? Who knows what they were really flowing, but if that's what it looked like to me, it's sometimes I call this drafting, where someone else has the vibration going and you just get in the vicinity to get a whiff of it. It's like you're not even doing the work to activate it. You're just paying attention to someone else's experience. That's why we got to be careful what we observe, because if someone else is flowing it and we tune in there, we're flowing it too. But I used that to my benefit by paying good attention to those who seem to have something good going with money. I also listened to Reverend Ike. He is such a hoot. I think you could still find him online if you Google Reverend Ike. I think it's under Musivation, Musivation. I could be wrong about that. But, that guy has some funny, in fact, I think they're ringtones. You might Google ringtones. Reverend Ike, money, ringtones. Hello. That guy's hilarious. I can't say it played a big part, but you could tell just the way I smile as I talk about it, that it was a money uplifter for me to listen to his little affirmations. They weren't affirmations. I don't know what they were. They were like chants. He was chanting money into existence. Oh, that guy. You know what else I did? I studied my astrology chart. Really, what I was doing there was enhancing my identity as a person who was born to have a good thing going with money. And I believe any one of us can find something supportive in our astrology charts to enhance our money story. So that was cool. I still use that one to this day. Every once in a while, I'll pull it up to remind myself that money I was made for it. Literally made for it. And whenever I wasn't spending money because I didn't have it or because it didn't feel good to, instead of telling myself the story that I couldn't afford it, I'd tell the story about what a good money manager I was. Right? I would learn to see this experience from a different angle, so it felt better instead of lack or limited. So I would just think about how smart I was and what good care I was taking of my money instead of still can't afford this, right? Big vibrational difference in those two different perspectives. So I practiced the one that served me. And whenever I was getting ready to interact with money, whether it was like to log in and check a balance or to pay a bill or whatever, I would practice the feeling of plenty of money before I did that. Like I would consciously conjure up that feeling of plenty of money. In fact, sometimes I would do that just by saying, you know how sometimes you pull up your account and you're like surprised at how much is there? You thought it was going to be less. And you're like, whoa, that's cool. Where'd all that money come from? Okay, that's the sort of thing, that's the way I would get myself there. I would think those thoughts. Wow, where'd all that come from? Wow, that's a lot of money. I would practice saying those things in order to help myself really feel it before I paid the bill or before I logged in to check the balance. So that was another way I played with my money vibration. And I also got good at recognizing limiting beliefs around money, including some not so nice thoughts about rich people being untrustworthy. And that other one that if you spend some, you have less. I loved switching that one up. And I would just repeat the reality that I wanted instead of letting those old thoughts rule, right? Because a lot of times we're operating under some beliefs that just don't serve us. So recognizing when that's the case and replacing them. The way you replace a belief is just find a new thought and repeat it more often than you were repeating the old one. Abraham tells us a belief is just a thought that you repeated over and over. So find some new thoughts, put them on repeat. It works. I also practice not making such a big freaking deal about money. It's just money. It doesn't matter all that much. Right? Instead of glorifying it, I would remind myself what really matters. And that is other stuff. For me, it's probably different for all of us, but for me, health, hello, my animals. And there was plenty of other stuff that mattered way more than money did. So I just got better about not making such a big deal about it. And over time, things did get better for me financially. It was kind of gradual. It's not like all of a sudden overnight there was a big windfall that changed everything. It kind of crept up on me over time. Like I would notice the money was going further than it did before, and it came easier, and it accumulated better than it had in the past. Things would they seemed to cost less, and surprise money would show up, and investments would do well. Not always, but often enough to know that this was working. And then that kind of momentum, it just like continued to fuel itself. I kept doing the work. I didn't just do it for a couple months and then let it go. This was ongoing work. But eventually, I just came to know myself as someone who has a really good thing going with money. And guess what? I got a good thing going with money. Not that there isn't room for improvement, but it is night and day where I came from with what I used to experience financially. So I know this stuff works. And if I can do it, I know anyone can. I want to reiterate that this is not where I came from financially. So if you're telling any story like, oh yeah, but she probably wasn't dealing with X, Y, or Z, you guys, it wasn't pretty for me. I'm not going to elaborate on what it was because that focus doesn't serve me. But this stuff works when you work it. What I did was I created a new experience with money. It was a very careful, a very conscious cultivation of a new money vibration. It did not happen by accident. I did it using all the LOA tools I ever learned. Whenever I ran across a new way to play with the vibration or to shift my frequency, I pretty much applied it all to money. I love playing in that area. I really do. And I want to say that it doesn't take that much work and it doesn't take that much time, but it does take that much commitment to leaving behind your old money vibration and practicing a new one. There are a wide variety of ways to go about it, way more than I mentioned here, but I just want to give you some idea about what's possible for you when you decide that you want to have a different experience with money and you do the work to shift that vibration. So I'm really sharing this because I want you to know that to get something different going with money, you got to lead that party vibrationally. So here's to fabulous money vibes. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy manifesting.